COVID outbreaks in Australia's southeast mean more than 14 million Australians are now under stay-at-home orders. Hope is being held out to people with eased restrictions eventually, and that vaccination rate is edging up. But in the meantime, it's a tough grind for many. The areas in lockdown have ebbed and flowed in recent weeks and can be difficult to keep track of it. Right now, it's all of New South Wales and Victoria in lockdown, and the ACT too. We'll take a look at each of those places, starting off in Victoria because those numbers have come through this morning. The state has recorded 71 new locally acquired cases. 49 of those linked to the current outbreak. 22 are still under investigation, and as you can see, that's the biggest number from this current outbreak. Reporter Eden Hennanen has more from Melbourne.
Victoria's unfortunately recorded 71 new locally acquired cases over the past 24 hours. Now 49 of those are linked to current outbreaks. But as you just mentioned, it's unknown how many of those were in isolation during their infectious period. Now yesterday, the state recorded, yesterday's tally was 65 local acquired cases and 55 linked to outbreaks. So we're not seeing a good trend at the moment, and even talk this morning from epidemiologist Tony Blakely about the possibility of softer lockdowns in the coming weeks if these numbers continue to rise.
So Eden, take us through what's happening with these clusters that are emerging.
We've been hearing about a growing cluster in Victoria's north, in Shepparton. Yesterday there was at least 21 cases acquired there. They're unsure of whether that will rise. There's also a growing cluster at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. That's Victoria's largest hospital in the state, with a cluster there at 7 was announced yesterday, and again that's expected to grow when we get more details about today's numbers. But basically a man from Shepparton went to get heart surgery at the Royal Melbourne Hospital last Thursday. Now, he had no symptoms, and obviously with getting heart surgery, he was in many parts of the ward speaking to a large number of staff. Turned out a week later, a person that visited his room became symptomatic, got tested and tested positive. That means that hundreds of healthcare workers and staff are isolating, and many of the staff are saying it's the toughest time in their career at the moment. Earlier this month, Sunshine and Footscray Hospital in Melbourne had a similar situation happen where 220 staff had to isolate, and we heard stories of ambulances having to turn around and not let patients come in. So, not looking good here in Melbourne at the moment, but as you just said, we'll hear more when we realise the details of these figures today.
And Eden, explain for us where you are there now.
Yeah, well, look, in some positive news today, Joe, we're just having a big truck come by here, so it might get a bit noisy. In some positive news, Victorians, more than 50% of Victorians across the state over the age of 16 have had their first dose vaccine of COVID-19. Yesterday alone, 50,000 people got vaccinated. So we're seeing some positive trends here, and it's only going to increase. Now, I'm standing here in Campbellfield at the old Ford factory on Barry Road in Campbellfield, just near Broadmeadows, and they're opening up a new drive-through testing facility here, one of 3 new drive-through testing sites in Melbourne. Now, it's booked out today, opened at 8:30 today, and you can see some cars behind us here that are opening up, and it's part of the state government's initiative to essentially get 1 million jabs into 1 million arms over a 5-week period. Now, also today, the state government announced that people in the public sector, like nurses and teachers, and also in the disability sector, can today get half a day's payment or leave to go and get vaccinated. So again, Joe, some pretty disappointing numbers, but hopefully we can get on top of this, more people can get vaccinated, and we'll see those vaccination numbers rise over the next few weeks.
Eden Hennanen reporting there from Melbourne. Let's head a bit further north from there now. More school students, staff and their families have been caught up in Shepparton's growing cluster, with 23 cases now confirmed in the northern Victorian city. Reporter Courtney Howe has more from Shepparton.
We are expecting case numbers to increase here in Shepparton today. The local health service, Golden Valley Health, tells us that at the moment there is a total of 23 cases here in Shepparton. Now, we heard of 21 of those cases in yesterday's official numbers, and we are expecting a couple of those will be included in today's numbers that we've just heard there. But unfortunately, what's giving the health service the most concern this morning. Notre Dame College here in Shepparton has been listed as an exposure site after a student tested positive to COVID-19. So there'll be students, parents and households lining up this morning to the very busy testing sites to get tested.
And there were long waits at testing sites yesterday. How's the health service dealing with demand?
There certainly was. People were waiting hours to get tested. A lot of sites filling up just as they opened. As we saw here this morning, we were here from 6 a.m. and there was already cars lining up at this drive-through site. The health service has acknowledged that there has been long waits as a result of the thousands and thousands of people they need to get through to get tested. They have brought in additional resources, bringing in people from Melbourne, Bendigo and as far as southwest Victoria to try to stand up more testing sites, and they will be adding an additional drive-through testing site today.